I'm Harmeet, and I'm a British Indian female with dark brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue and black striped jumper and black sort of leggings, trousers. And as Nikki said, I'm head of digital and innovation at the space, and I also run my own company making immersive experiences. So it's really exciting for me to be facilitating this panel because I know firsthand the power and potential of how artists and creatives are using new technology across VR, AR, XR, spatial sound, haptics, AI, and digital innovation to tell stories and create experiences that transform how audiences think and feel about the world and their place within it. And it's also about recognising what value this has for the creative industries, for the cultural sector, and as a born and bred Brummie, celebrating and realised what we've done in the West Midlands to already get here. And we saw some of this during the Commonwealth Games, where artists, musicians, creatives worked with communities and organisations at the heart of those processes to create art experiences that celebrated the identity of the region, built on the heritage of the Industrial Revolution, and told the stories of working class people, and told the stories of those who are super young, super diverse, bringing together a city that is imbued with the spirit of grit and resilience. Our region is distinct, but our stories are universal. And it's also about working together to continue to nurture the region's talent and prepare the future of tomorrow for the world they are inheriting. What we also know is that the experiential revolution is already here. The world is accelerating at rapid pace, and digital innovation and experiential storytelling is changing the way we consume content and culture. And it's realizing that the collision of creativity, culture, and innovation raises social capital, stimulates economic growth, and creates equity by telling stories and creating experiences that capture the imagination of the audience. And this isn't just a local or regional, even a national conversation. Just a few weeks ago, over 3,000 people and 50 heads of state gathered at the World Economic Forum in Davos to talk about collaboration for the intelligent age and discussed how the adoption of new technology can be trusted and how it can answer some of the world's biggest challenges we face today. They also talked about how we can reskill and upskill millions of people and at the same time stimulate growth, raise living standards, and create equity. So when we look at the economies of scale, the West Midlands is relatively small compared to the rest of the world. And that means that we have the potential to solve some of these questions in a much more agile and responsive way, if we get it right. And as Hayley mentioned, the West Midlands is already doing that. We have a thriving film and TV sector, as well as the games development sector, which is affectionately known as Silicon Spa. Cultural changemaker and business consultant Jamie Notter said, "Innovation is change that unlocks value." And those new ideas, prototypes, and experiences, along with ecosystems, pipelines, and processes, add value. They create new IP and new cultural experiences that bring people together. So how do we build on the region's past success and encourage its talent so that we become a thriving hub of creativity and innovation with artists, cultural institutions, academics, entrepreneurs, storytellers, and innovators at the heart of that process? These are some of the things that we're going to find out with our panel today. So let's meet them. Over to you to do some intros. Rachel?
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Davis. I'm Director of Warwick Enterprise at the University of Warwick. I'm a white British female, got short dark hair, and I'm wearing a burgundy jacket and wide leg white jeans today. So just a very quick introduction to kind of what I do and who I am. So as Director of Warwick Enterprise at Warwick Uni, I have a split portfolio. So I look after a range of initiatives that support student and graduate innovation and entrepreneurship. And I also work very closely with the Chair for our Faculty of Arts on mobilising our CreaTech initiative. And part of that is our work on CreaTech Frontiers. I'm also very proud to be Vice Chair and Parent Governor of the BOA governing board, the BOA Academy, just across the way there. Specifically, I support the governing board for the Performing Arts Academy as part of the BOA group. So by inference, you will also know that I'm a mum to an ambitious kind of creative. So my daughter is looking at developing a career in the creative industries. So whereas she's very much about performing arts at the moment and wants to be on the stage, she has also expressed interest in directing creative content, also for the stage. And I think to myself, okay, wonder what that looks like in 10 years' time and how that's going to be transformed. So that's kind of gives you like a short overview of kind of my areas of focus and interest. Essentially, I'm an educator, I'm an educational developer, and all of the work that I've done to date is around building new infrastructure. And this is why we're delighted to be partnering on CreaTech Frontiers, because this is all about making sure that we build the right infrastructure at Warwick to be able to connect into the region as part of that investment from AHRC.
Brilliant, thank you, Rachel. Lamberto?
Hi everyone, my name is Lamberto Coccioli, so I'm a white Italian male. I'm dressed with green trousers and a green shirt and a blue jacket. And my role is, I've got a number of roles, but my professional role is as a professor of music and technology at Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. You probably know that is part of Birmingham City University. And also, I'm here today, I guess, as the director of the CreaTech Frontiers initiative, this funding application that we put to the AHRC, the Arts and Humanities Research Council, was successful, and to establish a creative industries cluster here in the West Midlands, for the West Midlands. My background is as a composer, a music composer, a musician. I studied in Italy. Then I worked in Italy and France before coming to the UK 25 years ago, when I started as head of music technology at the same place where I work today. So I've been here in Birmingham. I'm basically an adopted Brummie for 25 years, yes. And moving from different areas of the city and around Birmingham as well. We've lived both in Birmingham, in Kings Heath, in Moseley, in Edgbaston. Then we moved to Lichfield. Then now we are in Wolverhampton, so we know the region well. And yes, when I arrived, I was head of music technology, so I was responsible for the department, basically building the department. There wasn't one at the time, so it was very exciting to start from scratch and start developing the first interdisciplinary course at BCU, which was with the then called in a different way, but it is what it is today, CB. So it was with the computing and engineering faculty. We established the first music technology degree that had very, very good success throughout the years. And so I started working very much in an interdisciplinary fashion. That's what led me to lead a number of international projects, including a very large European project for 7 years called Integra. We developed a new software. We looked at sustainability of the live electronics repertoire. We commissioned a lot of works for media and music combined in different ways. So what you would call today immersive audio and immersive media. So that was very much part of my kind of career here at Birmingham. And then a few years ago, we started really looking into ways of doing something more tangible to support the creative industries in the region, and specifically technologies around performance, around screen. And so that's why we applied for a number of funding with the AHRC, which were all unsuccessful. But of course, you have to keep trying. So we did. You can't hear me? Sorry, is that everything all right? Okay, thank you. So we tried numerous times. So we tried first with a big project with China around opera and performing augmented opera with technologies in collaboration with Chinese art institutions and educational institutions. And that was partly successful, but then the larger bid was not successful. 2 years later, we applied for the CoStar National Lab, which was very ambitious, and we were shortlisted. So that was a huge achievement. CoStar is a network of labs around the UK, all around screen and performance technologies that are starting to be opened as we speak this month. So it's very nationwide initiative. It's a very, very interesting one. And we are connected with it as well. We'll discuss this during the day. But that application was not successful, but it led us to the current application, to CreaTech Frontiers, which finally was successful. And I'm very pleased that was the case. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lamberto. And Tom?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Rogers. I'm the creative content producer at Birmingham Royal Ballet. So I'm a white, middle-aged male, black, rapidly receding hair, streak of grey, dressed in blue jeans, blue shoes, blue jacket and a white pattern shirt. So my role at Birmingham Royal Ballet is to oversee the creation of our digital content and assets, so film, photos, social media. I also work with broadcast partners, so BBC and other partners that come in as well. And then I also lead on creative projects. So I guess most relevant to today was I was project lead on our virtual stage program, which was a 2-year program where we explored immersive technologies, so AR, VR, motion capture, projection mapping, a sort of a wide range of immersive technologies and creative technologies to understand how we could use them to enhance our creative output and reach new audiences. And I'm really interested to sort of hear what these guys have to say, and I think it's really exciting to be involved in the region as a whole. So, thank you.
Great, thanks, Tom. Richard?
Hi, good morning. I'm Richard Withersey. I'm the General Director with Birmingham Opera Company. My background has been across creative activity as a producer and as a director and as a maker, and that's in live performance and film, and that's brought me into various places, also with universities and collaborations and training organisations, from the Job Centre to BBC Academy with the Space, all sorts of different partners over the years, really to try and open up access and availability to anybody who wants to be able to make work. So whether that's live performance as a performer or as a maker, as a producer, and it's been, I mean, the background to us really getting involved with Lamberto and with this project is we obviously have a relationship with the Conservatoire over the years, and we've spoken about various projects. So, you know, it's great that this is happening because it's a first, you know, embarking on a shared journey together, bringing our various skills, which you know, it comes at a really good time, which we'll talk about a bit later, about our regional ambitions. So, you know, although we are just called Birmingham Opera Company, we really want to have a presence across the region. And it's great this is a sort of moment of thrust across that region. The way I look, I'm a white male. I've got white shoes, a white shirt, and a blue jacket and light blue trousers.
Brilliant, thank you, Richard. And go ahead, Louise.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise Latter and I am the Head of Programme at BOM, sometimes known as Birmingham Open Media. I am a white British short-ish woman with a long brownish bob and a very short fringe, and I'm wearing a bright green corduroy dress today. At BOM I look after everything that members of the public really see or experience that comes out of BOM that's a non-commercial products. Recently, we merged with Taran 3D and became a immersive studio in our own right. So we do a wide range of things from sort of digital products. So we just this beginning of this week launched our new mobile game, which you should definitely download because it's very fun and addictive. It's called Mother Nature Eco Dash. And then the other end of the spectrum, we are delivering WMCA-funded immersive arts boot camps at the moment, of which one of the waves is literally starting right now at BOM, the space. So there's lots of different things going on. I've been at BOM for almost a decade, and before that, I was working as the Young People and Learning Manager at FACT, the Foundation for Art and Creative Technology, for almost a decade as well. So I am very loyal, as you can see. So yeah, that's me.
Brilliant, thank you, Louise. It's really good to hear a little bit more about you all. I feel like I've known you all for years. And are you all ready to be grilled like the Spanish Inquisition?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So to kick off, as we've heard mentioned from some of the people on the panel and Hayley, the West Midlands has just been awarded 6.75 million for CreaTech Frontiers as part of the new round of creative industries clusters, focusing on the development of games, virtual production and immersive experiences. So the first question that I want to ask the panel is, tell us more about how you're involved in CreaTech Frontiers and what it means for you, for the region and for you as an organisation. So Rachel, if I'm going to go to you first.
Sure. So University of Warwick is a consortium partner in CreaTech Frontiers alongside Coventry University, University of Birmingham, the RSC, and led by Birmingham City University. So yeah, we're super excited. So I will just kind of say a few words about our journey. So what's got us to this point as an organisation. So 6 years ago, colleagues sat around the table, our Faculty of Arts, our innovation team, our regional leadership team, and said, do you know what? We've got a high growth, high productivity, creative cluster on our doorstep in Coventry and Warwickshire, and we don't connect with them as much as we should or as much as we could. So we've really got to do this better. So we started the Creative Futures Initiative, and it had two main aims. So we wanted to better engage students and graduates with the industry that's sitting on our doorstep, and we wanted to better support business, startup and innovation for the cluster. So that's where we started, and we had a little bit of money from what's called our Higher Education Innovation Fund, and we did a lot of experimentation. So we've done a lot of different stuff. We've experimented with different programs. We set up an outpost in 1 Mill Street in Leamington Spa. We launched an esports centre on campus. And we started working with lots of partners across the region to really understand what's happening, what are those requirements, what do people expect from us as the University of Warwick, and actually what do we need to change in order to do this better. So we did a really deep dive a couple of years ago in terms of, what is it we as the University of Warwick kind of need to do to add value here? And actually, how do we need to work and collaborate with other partners across the region in order to make sure the bit that we do has real value and can make a real impact? So obviously, we're a broad-based, research-intensive institution. We're part of the Russell Group. So, we're very kind of research-focused, but we're also quite siloed. So even though we've got 34 quite distinct academic disciplines, who are all very good in their distinct strand, interdisciplinary R&D isn't something that comes naturally, but actually this is something that the sector needs, and this is something that we've learned. So partnering with BCU on CreaTech Frontiers is really interesting for us because we've got a lot to learn in terms of that approach to interdisciplinary R&D and education, and how do we leverage our various capabilities and make this happen. Our other observation is that our geography in the West Midlands is really unique. So I think, there's massive capability and investment going into the city of Birmingham. Coventry and Warwickshire also has a distinctiveness in terms of what's happening around the gaming cluster and immersive technologies. And as the University of Warwick, we're sitting on the edge of that. So actually, do we have a role here in terms of kind of connecting up what's happening? So working with CreaTech Frontiers, and just thinking about that geography. So with the two universities, Warwick and Coventry, working with Birmingham and BCU, it's almost like we're putting in place a suspension bridge for our kind of unique geography that is the West Midlands. So if we can create better connectivity across all of the different strengths of the region, and we work together, then suddenly we've got this massive intellectual capital that we can join together that will hopefully support the sector better. So I think the other thing I would want to kind of point out here is that we did a lot of consultation with our local cluster. We did a lot of research nationally in terms of what's distinctive about CreaTech innovation, and how is it different to other innovation and the models that need to be put in place for that. And what the research told us, and the people that we spoke to told us, was that CreaTech companies, they need access to finance, they need access to talent, they need access to experimental technologies, and they need access to interdisciplinary R&D. So those companies are more likely to want to access 2 or more academic disciplines to support the innovation. So I guess when we're thinking about our own approach, we've got those 4 things in mind in terms of how we build our infrastructure. And then, as I say, it's about how do we connect that up with other capabilities across the region, which is why we're all in on CreaTech Frontiers, and delighted to be working with Lamberto on building that suspension bridge and creating a stronger sense of cohesion across the region.
Fantastic.
Brilliant, thank you. Lamberto, do you want to pick up a little bit more about that and tell us a little bit more about what CreaTech Frontiers means, not just for the region, but for anyone that might be interested in sort of the mechanics of how it's going to roll out?
Sure, and thank you, Rachel, for saying that you've got a lot to learn from us. We have a lot to learn from you and from what you did with the gaming cluster in Leamington Spa and around Leamington. Really, for us, the challenge, whilst we were thinking about how to set up this cluster and propose it for funding, was to identify the strengths in the region. What are the things that are really distinctive about this region? And it's not by chance that on this panel we have 2 people from the arts, the performing arts sector, like Richard from Birmingham Opera Company, Tom from Birmingham Royal Ballet, because that is one incredible strength that we have at world level. So we have world-class institutions and organizations here in the West Midlands that are at the forefront of innovation in the performing arts. Royal Shakespeare Company, of course, that is a core partner in CreaTech Frontiers, Birmingham Opera Company, Birmingham Royal Ballet. We have many others, the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, Birmingham Contemporary Music Group, the REP, and all these organizations are really world-class. But these organizations are not particularly well connected with other areas of the creative industries and also the tech industries, because tech industries also is a success story in the region. There has been a lot of investment, a lot of growth in the tech sector, but this is not CreaTech, it's tech only. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to put together tech sector, performing arts, and generally arts and cultural sector, together with an incredible powerhouse of 4 universities and the academic expertise that comes with 4 universities pooled together to support this innovation, to act as a catalyst for innovation in the creative industries in the region. This is not simple to put together. Of course, it took a long time, as I explained before. This started many years ago when we started thinking how to put together funding applications to develop these kind of projects. And then what happened when we kind of arrived at the present application, we needed to find a way to invite the other universities to work with us. Because in the past, there were other initiatives trying to get creative industries funding from the UKRI here in the region, and that were not successful. And there were more than one bid that was not successful because they were done in isolation. So we really thought that one thing that we could sell to the funders was this incredible academic expertise that was here in the region. And it was a question of just bringing it together and bring forward a proposition that was clear and was unified. And so that's why we started talking for a long period, because we had more than a year of meetings before even we knew that the call was out there to apply for. So we did talk to Warwick, to the University of Birmingham, to Coventry. We also talked to other universities, but then these 4 were the ones that went all the way through. And so we were able to keep our proposition intact on one and saying, look, these are the strengths of this region. Cultural organizations, university academic expertise, and the tech sector that is burgeoning. So how do we then make all this work for the creative industries? That's our challenge. That is our, and so together with all the other partners that are not the core partners, we've talked about the core partners of the project, so the 4 universities and the RSC, but then we have 27 organizations and industry partners that have given us letters of support and will give concrete resources to deliver the project over the next 5 years, to run the cluster. Harmeet said that this was a 6.7 million funding. It's a bit more than that because it's indexed over the 5 years, so it's 7.2 million grant, so that's the money that comes from the government. And on top of that, then there is all the money that all the partners are providing as much funding to deliver the activities. So the total value of the cluster is more like 15 million because all the different partners are putting in, on average, the same amount that is received from the grant. And this is actual money. I mean, it is in-kind support, but it is actual money because it is access to resources, access to facilities, access to staff time. In the case of the universities, it's very real money to support, for example, PhDs, to support internships, to run activities. So the actual value of the project is more than just the grant. I'd be more than happy to go in more detail on what's going to happen and how. We just started. The project started a week ago. The actual funding period started a week ago. So we are very much in the onboarding, starting up phase, and there is a lot to organize and set up. But clearly we are starting to think about a plan for the delivery of the first year activities. I can give you an initial idea of what it is, but of course it's all very much being formed as we speak. So we are having lots of meetings with Rachel and colleagues, and we are trying to sort out exactly what this looks like. But maybe I can talk about this a bit later if you want to.
Teasing us with what is planned for the first year. Okay, well, Lamberto, we'll come back to what's going to happen in the first year. We'll give you that small reprieve for now. Who else wants to? Tom, shall I go to you next?
Yeah. I guess I would sort of look at it with a different hat on, obviously, as an arts organisation. I think sort of there's a few avenues to look at, and in the short term, obviously, the access to money is hugely exciting. You know, that's targeted to the West Midlands. Is there potential for us to tap into that? You know, because obviously the funding landscape for everyone is just an enormous challenge. So having money that is dedicated to this work within the West Midlands is really, really exciting. And then I think in the long term, it's about an access to knowledge and understanding within these sectors. I think one thing that became apparent to us through the virtual stage launch, which was with Bloomberg's Digital Accelerator Programme, we had a tech advisor for the 2 years, Ian Ravenscroft. Some of you may know him. He's an absolute oracle of knowledge. It's incredible. And actually having Ian on board over the 2 years was, I would say, more valuable than money, because we could have been given the money, and with the world that we were going into, we would have just thrown it down the drain because we don't have the knowledge and the understanding of how to utilise that money and how to talk to external partners and how to build on what we were trying to do in the right way. So actually the knowledge and the understanding of these industries and that shared knowledge is just as valuable as the money. And having an ecology in the next 5 years where an arts organisation like us can come to you and say, this is a project that we want to get off the ground, how do we do it? And you being able to provide the knowledge and the insight for us to do that effectively, I think is really, really important, because otherwise we could just throw money away, like I said, because it is the knowledge and the expertise you need for all the various industries, of whether it's VR or AR or photogrammetry, you know, the list goes on. They are just rabbit holes of knowledge and understanding, and actually you need to be able to tap into those really effectively. So I would just say, yeah, short term, the money, amazing, wonderful. But long term, it's the knowledge and the understanding and an ecology of, I guess, communication and collaboration that I'd like to see. So.
And it's really interesting that actually, you know, Rachel and Lamberto, you've picked up on the complexity of, you know, putting this together, you know, the groundwork that's gone in the past, and then actually the kind of key areas that you're putting in, you know, the kind of interconnectivity of sharing that knowledge, you know, creating those pathways for expertise to be shared, as well as then the programs that will support that, which I am going to come back to Lamberto and interrogate you on further. But I wanted to turn over to you. I haven't given you too many attention, but I think it's a good point to jump in and say it'd be really interesting to see, you know, see and hear as delivery partners how you're involved in CreaTech, but also what it means for you as organisations that already have really, really strong purpose and values.
Yeah, great. If I could pick that up. So, I mean, we spend most of our time in shared spaces. We don't have a venue of our own. So most of the work we do, 99% of it, is on somebody else's patch. And the reason for that is that we let something large into the organisation, which is the kind of the now, the city, the world in which people live. And we want that to be part of the work that we create. So what we're not doing is creating work and then just taking it out. We're not doing educational workshops which explain our work to people. We're always trying to, where possible, create work with as many people as possible. So we have a structure of 3 full-time staff. The rest of the organisation, if you want to call it that, is freelance. That gives us amazing flexibility to tie in employment and to tie in a kind of, to try and creative practitioners, both as volunteers and as paid workers, from kind of whichever sector and whichever capability we think is necessary to make something work. So the reason we're really, the starting point for us with this is that we've had a long relationship with digital technology, as making film, long form capture, short form capture, training projects with young filmmakers, some of whom now work in the industry, either as makers or in social media, collaborations with the Job Centre, collaborations with universities. What sits right at the centre of it is to always try and find new ways for us to express the art form of opera and to make that process as open to as many people as possible and to give them recognition in the process. So at one level it's really simple. We want to live in the now. We want the art form to live in the now, and the now is this.
How do I follow that? The now is this. We are the now. So from BOM's point of view, if people don't know, BOM is an immersive arts organisation creating high-quality immersive experiences, working with artists, working with clients, but also we see ourselves as a really important component in the West Midlands in terms of the talent pipeline of immersive and immersive arts specifically. And that's really through our boot camp and other various things that we're developing. So our vision is really to be the leading immersive arts organisation in the UK and to be the driver of XR talent in the Midlands. So it's a big ask. Specifically as part of this project, we're going to be delivering some training basically. So we will be delivering workshops over 4 years, which will be in low-cost motion capture and virtual production. So that's really looking at quite accessible ways to do this sort of work within our space, but also really working with a diverse group of practitioners from different backgrounds, from different professions, and giving them the chance to be able to get their hands on this technology and experiment with it, to work with people who have got the expertise in it. So looking at AI-assisted content creation, meta-human creation, and virtual production techniques, which probably by the time we actually do them will have changed from what we would deliver now, that it will be something new. So that, is sort of flexible. But we're really going to be on the ground with the practitioners, with the creatives, delivering that training and supporting those people. So that's where we like to be, and we're really excited to be there.
That's amazing. It's really interesting to hear how it's an extension of your work that you already do, but it's actually allowing you to increase how many people will come in at that intro level to be able to build those skills from the ground up.
Yes. And it gives us the opportunity to sort of diversify our income and what we're doing and how we can stay sustainable. But it also gives us the chance to develop and experiment in that creation of those courses and how we can always be evolving to create more inclusive training, I think, is really important, because one size does not fit all, and we don't want that. So we want to make sure that we're always reflecting and we're always creating better stuff for people, basically. Can I just check, if I move my head that way, do I lose sound? Okay, I will try and stay this way.
I mean, it sounds brilliant to hear what everyone's doing, and I know I know most of you very well. But it's what it strikes me is that, you know, this is a really big engine. The West Midlands is huge, and this is a big engine, on top of the fact that there are great organisations that are doing things that, you know, reach audiences and communities in new ways. And it reminds me of a quote that Henry Ford said, which is, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, but working together is success. And that's really tricky to get right. So I guess thinking about, you know, this spirit of collaboration and digital innovation, why is now the right time for you? Silence. Yeah, go on.
I mean, look, we've had some quite big flagship events, haven't we, in the last few years in the West Midlands, and I think it's with a project like this, which is West Midlands sort of regionally based, there's a massive opportunity there to kind of, well, keep the foot on the pedal, but to also make sure that the wealth of the project stays within the region, that the employment is sticky, the city and the cultural industries are sticky, and you know it comes on at a good time in terms of what's recently gone on, but also with the changes within funding, within the city and within the region. It's a time to try and key into some of the strategies. It's a time to really look at what is effectively a regeneration agenda, which measures success, you know, on employment and satisfaction. But the two things come hand in hand, and to be right at the beginning of a journey with a new industry for us is a really good place to be.
Brilliant, thank you, Richard. Go on, Tom.
So at the risk of being slightly visual, sort of maybe for arts organisations and the funding challenges we face, you know, maybe not a good time actually, but it's an opportunity for us, and actually knowing, like you said, the wealth within the region and wanting to keep it sticky, actually it's an opportunity that we need to be a part of. So it's, yes, from a funding point of view, there's huge challenges ahead for us, and there probably never is a good time. So actually, but there is an opportunity, and that's what we should take.
The kind of idea of really the arts organisations, the cultural organisations, we also need to change the way that we think about what our outputs are, why we're there, and what relationship with the public that we have. So, in a sense, you know, and all that funding stuff, all those things are all related to that. They're related to the advocacy. They're related, you know, to what we think we are. So it's that is something that we'll all share together, and it never works better than when you work with an external partner, which is why often it's difficult.
Yes.
But it really forces you to make the decisions and to go, well, actually, what are we all doing here? Does anybody care? Is it relevant? You know, how do we change the rules of engagement, especially with art forms like opera? You know, can I take a phone out in the middle of a performance? Will somebody complain? Will somebody think it's wrong, etc.? All those values and things, you know, we change circumstances within industries and what's expected within sectors. So in that sense, I mean, that's what I mean about it being an opportunity. Of course, all the funding stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, when I'm from Liverpool, as you've worked there with FACT and so forth, you know, they had a very long history of working from the provision being nothing. When I started there, the orchestra was bankrupt, the theatres were bankrupt, you know, and then they worked towards something. But they worked from that point by kind of getting their heads around what community and relevance, etc. is, and saying, what place have we got in a city? Yeah. I think that's a real opportunity, especially at times of change, even if they look terrible. That's the time when we can go, aha!
Yeah, I think the opportunity for meaningful partnerships with something like this is what I'm getting at in terms of opportunity. You know, your opera, I'm ballet. I mean, God, it's, you know, talk about isolating yourself at times. I mean, so like the actual opportunity for meaningful partnerships that positively outcome both sides is here, and that's why we should be pursuing it. So.
I think just to jump in there at what you said about this is now, or something along those lines, like this is, it's happening, isn't it? So it is happening, and we've got to do it. Sorry, I've got to stop looking at Harmeet. You're just so damn irresistible. So for for BOM, I mean, it's what I find really interesting, and I think even before COVID, is around arts venues and what they mean and what they do. And in 2022, we closed our gallery, so we have an open gallery with cafes, and we decided to close that. So, but we're also buying a new building at the moment in Digbeth, so we're moving to Digbeth. So there's change happening there. There's a big thing happening in Digbeth. You've got HS2 outside, you've got all this investment coming to Birmingham and beyond in the region. So for us, it's really interesting to look at how we navigate a physical venue. Like you were saying about you don't have a venue, and I think that's really tasty, that's really interesting, because you can sometimes get sort of stuck in those ways. And I think this new way of looking at digital creation and storytelling, which we're probably going to talk a bit more about this afternoon, it gives us the opportunity to really look beyond the programme and look at how we work with audiences, how we impact the people we're working with, and how we use our spaces as well. So that's just something that I'm interested in.
And others were saying,
Yes.
This idea of course there are funding challenges in the arts sector, but that's exactly why we want to connect the arts sector with the tech sector, with other sectors, so that and also with universities, of course, because now it is at policy level, at government level, there is a recognition that innovation works better if it works with arts organizations. So, we are in STEAM House. STEAM stands for STEM plus A, the arts. And that is something that, it's just a name, but what is behind the name is a very deep thinking, it's a very deep concept about the role of the arts, the role of creative thinking in an arts fashion to support innovation in any area. And actually also to control, to temper innovation so that it's not completely technology driven, but it's driven by human factors as well, by human principles. And that is what real innovation is, because you don't want to lose human creativity, the power of human creativity. We talk a lot about AI, a lot of new technologies, immersive. It's all great, but what is it for? If it's not for human enrichment. So that's what the arts always bring us back to. So that's why the arts need to be in the cocktail. When you have a funding program, you're trying to develop, create innovation, foster growth in the creative industries, you need to make sure that the arts sector is there to collaborate and to give this kind of human dimension its due. And that's the kind of work that I'm sure you're both doing. One thing that I wanted also to touch upon, and maybe that's, of course, the work that BOM is doing, and that's one of the reasons why we're partnering with them, is that they are so good at inclusive innovation and also reflecting the diversity, the super diversity of this region. Hayley mentioned the Royal Anniversary Trust report that just came this week on CreaTech, the CreaTech report that was presented at the House of Commons 2 days ago. One bit of information from that report that really struck me was the fact that 91% of the workforce in CreaTech is white. That is not right, and especially here in the West Midlands, it just does not reflect the makeup of this region. So there's work to do there. We've got challenges with funding and other things, but of course, as Harris said, our university, in particular Birmingham City University, is very well placed because we have a very diverse student population. And if we manage to use this project to then place these students with industry, make sure that they have an experience and let them develop their skills and also retain the talent in the region, that is a win for us. That's what we would identify as a real, a fantastic result for this project to contribute to the growth of the region. And so this dimension is really important. The diversity and inclusion for us is a really important thing that will permeate every aspect of the delivery of the project throughout the next 5 years.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think, just to touch on what you've all said, actually where there's opportunity, there's always the opposite side of that is always lack. And what I see, having spent all of my career in the West Midlands, is that the organisations that are still here are the ones that are reinventing themselves all the time, thinking about how they're relevant and also thinking about how they're relevant to the people that they work with, and actually I see that, with yourselves, and I see it, that you're constantly thinking about what value do we have for those who we serve, and that's where the strength comes from, I think, in terms of thinking it's not just about the new opportunities that tech offers, it's also always thinking about who you're working with and why that has relevance for what you're doing, otherwise you'd cease to exist.
Say as well, I've decided to take this off, I'm sorry, but I can't stop looking over here. That comes from back to what you were saying about starting from nothing. I think it's not just because the people we work with, it's because we have to, you literally have to be moving and changing all the time. Karen started BOM and the Arts Council were like, we will never fund this, and now we're in our second round of MPO funding. She did it anyway, and I think that that's something that is really important, that when you are doing things from nothing and against the odds, then it sort of forces you into that. And something with Lamberta that just struck me was, and I'm interested, it's probably a bit of a niche question, but I'm interested to see, you were saying about how making sure that people have really good placements in the organisations, and I would be really interested to talk to you about that, because I think that's really difficult, that's a challenge, because there are many challenges, especially in sort of CreaTech organisations, that if you're a young woman of colour going into an organisation that is mainly, white male cis men, for example, that there are definite things there and nuances, and that's just one example. There are many that a lot of people won't understand, that there are barriers and obstacles, and I think we're experiencing it at BOM. You've got to treat people as individuals, but that takes a lot of capacity and a lot of resources and a lot of money. So I think it's something that is really needs to be carefully considered, and I'd really love to talk to you about that and how we all go about that.
Do you want to talk about that now? Are you ready?
Well, I can try. So at the moment, we've got in the program, we've got 80 internships that are funded by a combination of grant and university funding for students to go out and work in industry. And on top of that, we've got 16 collaborative doctoral awards. So these are PhD, the students or doctoral researchers that are placed in a company and then work towards a challenge that is their own, of course, PhD project, but it's also a challenge for the company. This is a model that has worked really well and is used by funders in, for example, the M4C consortium, which is the Midlands for Cities consortium, is a consortium of universities also funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council that promotes this kind of collaborative doctoral awards. So these are two mechanisms that we have in the project. We haven't looked, of course, at the detail of how you implement this in terms of, if there are difficulties or extra capacity that is needed. We need to look at this in detail, of course. But we have the possibility to run those to open this up for our students from the 4 universities. We're also looking at, as part of the project, we're also developing the concept of an apprenticeship for the creative industries and specifically for CreaTech. So a mix of artistic and technical skills and how to prepare students through an apprenticeship model. So there will be a working group that will be focusing specifically on that with members from, experts from our partners and from outside our partners in the region. And they will come with some conclusions, and then potentially this could form the basis for an apprenticeship trailblazer in the CreaTech sector, which could also form a part of the puzzle. This is a 5-year project, and it's very open in terms of what it will do. We want it to grow organically. So, of course, there are things we need to deliver, but we, on purpose, are leaving things quite fluid because, of course, technology changes all the time, but it's not only that. It's also that we want to respond and use it as a platform to attract further interest, further investment, further activities that can build on top of it. It's very much a catalyst for other things to happen, as demonstrated by previous creative clusters that operated in this way. They started with a given plan, and then it expanded and became twice as big, and that is the ambition.
And I think that's sort of the opportunities. I think that kind of leads on to really talking about what that means in terms of reskilling, the reskilling revolution. So I'd be interested to find out how all of you, in the different ways that you work as organisations, and the CreaTech Frontiers, how you're supporting and platforming a new generation of digitally native artists. I think some of that we've already heard of, but I'd be really interested to kind of pull in on some of that detail.
Hey.
No, I'm not looking at anyone particular. But Rachel?
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of share how we're thinking about this. So, on the University of Warwick, we're a particular type of organisation, and I think we're looking at two areas around education and upskilling. So, the first obviously is our degree provision. So, we are looking at developing a CreaTech degree. That would be interdisciplinary in nature, but would be drawing on the specialisms that sit across our 3 faculties. So that's looking quite exciting. And then making sure that those specialisms are more focused at postgraduate level, as Lamberto has described. We're also really excited about the degree apprenticeship model and how do we create something very specific for the West Midlands in terms of rooted in its ecosystem. And then looking at the opportunity about developing micro-credentials and setting up a suite of CPD so we can work directly with businesses to make sure that we're doing that upskilling. So that's on the education side of things. And then the other area that we're looking to explore is around supporting a schools partnership model. So working with young people aged 11 to 18. So if we're developing capabilities around experimental technologies and skills provision, how do we work in partnerships with Coventry and Warwickshire schools to make sure that we're levelling the playing field and actually creating equity of access? So those young people can come and see and experiment and develop those areas of interest, but also so they can see the educational pathways for the creative industries that exist across the region and help people access those. So I think there's something that we can do quite proactively around that. And then I guess my third point is around an observation, really. So, it's the technical aspects of CreaTech, but alongside everything else, it's all moving so fast. So do you focus educational provision on developing the skills, the technical skills, or do you focus on actually making sure those young people can ideate, that they can work collaborative, that they can appreciate interdisciplinary perspectives, and that they can develop ideas and they can prototype? So where does that balance sit in terms of developing those transferable capabilities or teaching someone how to use Photoshop? And I know that's a very kind of crude example, but I think there's a balance to strike there, and we really need to work together to make sure we get that balance right.
Brilliant, really interesting. And I think, starting as young as possible is absolutely the right way of investing in culture and innovation, for sure. Actually, we're all content makers now. We all are. We're all filmmakers, we're all photographers, we all know how to express ourselves and make content. So actually starting that pipeline younger is absolutely the way in. So that's really interesting to hear.
I think I'm quite interested in sort of the idea of some kind of recognition of qualification, which, we have a lot of volunteers and projects that we do, and it's one of the issues is, how is that validated to an external, for example, employer? What does it prove what they've done? So we produce our own certificates because actually it was too difficult to make something work through an educational accreditation, because you need to do many more things to justify the thing you've done. And the more we can streamline that to actually just recognizing the things that people are doing and the values that they are giving and creating, and it's not, and that's taken at face value, the better. So I'd be really interested to see where all those kind of access stuff ends up within educational access routes. I once produced a large-scale widening participation project, but again back up in Liverpool. And in order for me to do it, it was European Social Fund funded. In order for me to do it, I had to write a whole new suite of courses across dance, drama, and music, and get it accredited by an open college network in order to access the funding for the activity that people were doing. And we had to start with the basic level, you know, what happens, can you get a certificate if you just turn up? Let's try and write a course like that. And then, you know, and I find it with the projects that we do, you know, somebody might give up halfway through as a volunteer, but it's a real success story because the reason they've given up is they've registered on a course at a college. And we as organisations need to find ways also of finding out, thinking differently, because we'd write that down as a failure, kind of, because we think, where have they gone? And it's only in talking to the host organisation when they've said, oh no, the reason they gave up was this. And that's actually, frankly, in our purpose, kind of a much better outcome, although we wouldn't have seen it. So I think all that stuff about how we validate and how everyone progresses and gets recognised at the earliest opportunity, and we work together to do that, is a real area for, want a better word, growth.
I just want to say, there's a lot of talk. We talk a lot about like preparing people, preparing individuals to go into industry, for example, but which is great. And I think I'm really excited about that thing about, you know, the teaching of the actual content and how you use the programs, etc. But how do you teach someone how to pitch a project or how to network and all of that stuff? We see that so much at BOM where people are just completely clueless about how to do that. But also there's lots of different reasons why lots of different people find those sorts of situations, and many of the situations difficult. So I'm really interested in that. But also I'm just always really aware of the fact that we're preparing individuals to go into organisations, but if we have the opportunity here where we're working with loads of different organisations, I think we also need to think about how they work and how they welcome people in, how they work with new people, because it, you know, it's often, even me, I'm not that old, but I've been in this like industry for sort of 18 years or something, and it's like, and I feel like old-fashioned and out of date, and I think it's not always about preparing those individuals. We need to shake up the organisations as well to be a bit more flexible and to be more accommodative of people and their needs, and to help them to be able to make the best of themselves. So let's just balance out that expectation. And just to come back to your question of like, you know, what are we doing to build, what was it, digitally native artists? Not to, you know, blow our own trumpet, but that is what BOM is. That is what we do basically. Like, but specifically, we have our boot camp that we're running, which we have a showcase event, on the 28th of February, which you should all come to. We're having a panel where we're having people in the industry talking about the future of the industry, and there'll be food. So please follow us and come along to that. That's I think there is a question. I don't know if we'll have time for it, but it's about how people can get involved. So please follow us on social media. At BOM Lab. There we go.
Getting in the sales pitch early. Did anyone else want to answer that question on this side? No? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. I mean, we've talked a lot about, you know, why this is happening right now, what needs to happen, you know, what the opportunities are, but also what the kind of tension is. But, you know, there's a really important part of using this tech, which is creating those experiences and telling those stories. So I kind of want to know, what does embracing new tech mean for audience experiences and telling those stories from your perspectives?
Yeah, where do you start? Quite. I think that's probably organisationally, that has been our biggest learning, is actually the wealth, the embarrassment of potential for storytelling. To give a few examples of storytelling, I guess we did a VR film, filmed live in the middle of a show at Swan Lake, in Act 2 of Swan Lake. I don't ever recommend doing that side of stage because it was a nightmare. But in terms of storytelling, it's a real human element. It's a real human element of what is otherwise a quite otherworldly thing that is on stage behind an orchestra pit and can seem quite alienating. And actually being side of stage for someone who you're watching 30 swans shuffle past about to go on stage, and you've got young girls who are nervous, you've got people chatting, not paying attention, someone's picking a wedgie. You know, it's all these things, and it's a human element to something that is otherwise a world that you would not get to see, to be stood in the wing. And we had 40,000 people come to watch our tour of Swan Lake, and actually to be able to offer that experience for those people is completely unique and something which perhaps 5 or 10 years ago wasn't possible. And I think we did another element. I was talking to Harmeet yesterday. We did some augmented reality content around our Nutcracker, so the sets and the props. And there's this beautiful piece which is the Christmas tree in the Nutcracker. And on the back of it is a message from every single technical team that's worked on the production since 1996. And there's writing in Japanese, there's some rude words, but there's well wishes, and it's just a beautiful snapshot into the world of theatre that you wouldn't otherwise get to see. And you know, whenever you go to museum, when I go to a museum or an exhibition, my favourite elements are those human connections, whether that's a letter that someone had written or a diary excerpt that's 300 years old, and that is the snapshot into a human world, into a human psyche at that time. And with technology like this, we have the opportunity to offer that to audiences, and it just makes what we do seem a little bit more approachable and a bit more relatable to you as a human being. And I think particularly in ballet, and dare I say opera as well, that is really key. You know, the element that we are in a privileged art form. It's not elitist, and I would argue with anyone who says that, but it is a privileged one, and it can often seem alienating, and actually it is human, it's real. And with these technologies, we have the opportunity to offer that insight.
Great. I'd love to read some of those messages, and I think you're right. I think what it's enabling you to do is not just bring in those really intimate moments that you never see because you go to see this grand performance, but you're allowing people who would never cross the threshold to where you have your, you know, amazing shows to experience it. And I think that absolutely does break down privilege, and that's a massive thing. You're breaking down a barrier to something, to people who would never normally cross in, even if they are curious. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I think equitable access, which was a word earlier, you know, and actually these are just the best gateway to getting people into your world. Actually, you know, you might not feel comfortable in a theatre. You know, you might never have stepped foot in a theatre, but you can scan a QR code and look at a piece of augmented reality content, and we are blessed with world-class scenery and production. Not just Birmingham Royal Ballet, but the UK. You know, it is globally leading in theatre production. We should recognise that, and actually, these phones allow access to that world and that understanding for people who may not otherwise consider coming to a theatre, and that should be a gateway to live performance. You know, what this tech does, it should never replicate a live experience, and we shouldn't try. It's its very own thing in terms of storytelling, but it can be a gateway to live theatre as well.
It's about amplifying those diverse perspectives, isn't it? And I think the technology will just amplify that, so more people will be able to tell their stories in their way. So when I think about my daughter, she says, you know, I've got so many stories in me that are just bursting to come out. So it's, how does she embrace technology to be able to share those with an audience?
And does any one of you want to answer that?
I was just going to quickly sort of agree with that and say it's really about meeting people where they're at. So geographically, like emotionally, financially, that's what it offers us to be able to do, is to meet them like where they are. And it puts the consumption or the creation of that content on their terms. And I think that's really exciting. It's a bit scary for organisations or, people who want to make money, for example, but I think that's where the excitement is for us.
And I think we don't have a marketing department.
Who does?
And I say that because actually the closest we get to marketing really is, like a film project where 10 people who will make some films about the work, but they'll make a film which is creative in its own right and not a kind of explanation of an opera that we're doing. They'll use the opera and the subject matter of the stimulus and all that as a starting point for the thing that they will create. So the opportunity there is that, you know, is the recognition that the work that we're doing in whatever facility is a shared story. It's our story. It should be the story of the audience, the maker, and wherever we look for opportunities with that within a sort of CreaTech environment, I think there'll be a certain point where, you know, this is all down to kind of budgets and environments and how things are made and processes. There is, I think, and what we're looking for is some kind of sweet spot between, you know, where the sum total of the work within the CreaTech area is kind of, you know, sits equally with the other work that we do, and that somehow both things holistically support each other, and we end up with a multiplicity of voices and products, and in the end those products don't sit in silos as they so often do. You know, architectural infrastructures as well as you know, business infrastructures dictate them. Different buildings for different types of work, different configurations. I mean, the world is full of this stuff, of all of these barriers, and really, you know, look, what we're trying to, and they're linked to the stories and whose story it is, and so on, and how people make it their story, and all this stuff. It's all the same problem. So I think that's what's really exciting about this, with this blank sheet of paper, effectively, that we start on that working together.
Just to add one more thing to that, actually, talking about, you know, marketing and just the fact that arts organisations can get involved in this sort of work. What does that say about them as an arts organisation? I mean, for us, Birmingham Royal Ballet, pick a word and you could be offended by it. You know, whoever you are, one of those or all three together. You know, and actually the fact that we are trying to bring this technology to us and integrate it into what we're trying to do, that actually, what does that say to people who may not otherwise sort of consider us as an option or even know that we're there? And actually what you just said about bringing what you do to people, and that's really important with this, and actually that's what's really exciting, is we can open our field to different audiences.
So we've got a few minutes left, and I think lots of people in the room and sort of, you know, on the live stream will want to know, you know, what are the opportunities, you know, whether they're other organisations who are interested in joining the table, or they're artists and creatives who want to feed into the work that you as organisations are doing. What opportunities are there, and how do they get a seat at that table? Lamberto, you're going to have to answer that question you didn't answer earlier, basically.
Happy to. So as I said, we are very much in the starting up phase of the project. What we know for sure, we will be disbursing grants. So the main way in which we will support R&D collaborations in the region will be through grants, which will be opening this summer. Coming summer, we hope to have a call for expression of interests early in the summer, around June. That's our plan. And those calls will be disbursing at the moment up to £2.2 million over the project period. And those grants will be, those calls will be designed around different thematic areas. Some of them will be more generic, some of them will be very specific. The more specific ones will be linked to projects that were already in the original design of the cluster. For example, with the Royal Shakespeare Company, we have a series of we have a plan to develop a series of demonstrators to be presented at South by Southwest in 2026 and 2027. South by Southwest is a large, if you probably know it, it's a large creative technology festival, arts, culture, music, technology, in Austin, in Texas. And starting from this year, there's also a London franchise of South by Southwest, which will start in June 2025, again for 10 years. But we are looking to go to Austin for this. And this will be curated by the Royal Shakespeare Company, which will be developed together with creative companies in the region. We'll develop content, new forms of presenting performance, specific projects around that. With the Birmingham Opera Company, so with Richard here, we will be working on co-creating with young people from different parts of Birmingham and the region, and Sandwell, yes, where you're working. Co-creating using technology, so this whole idea of bringing young people to, and getting input from young people on how to work with these technologies to produce a performance, to produce work. So that's also something that is already inscribed in what we're going to do. But the main way of supporting the creative sector here in the West Midlands will be through these grants. The grants are both an amount of cash, but most importantly, they bring for free the academic expertise, so time with academic experts from the 4 universities that will be matched specifically for the requirements of an industry need, an industry challenge that has been identified, specific grant to develop a new product, a new service, new content. The academic that is an expert in that area will be working with the company to support them. We haven't decided yet exactly if those grants will be tiered and how much money will be. We'll try to reflect and react very much from what the response is from the community. We have taken some assumptions about the fragmented nature, the fact there are lots of micro businesses in the area, but we might be wrong. It may be that there is more demand from larger companies looking to scale up, and so they might need further funding. So it's, as I said, it's an organic process. We are looking at working with industry very much, learning from what they want to see and what they need. And I should have said, of course, we touched upon a little on the skills development program of the project. We've told you about the research and development, so the R&D part of it. Then there is also a very strong business support element. So we will be guiding and supporting businesses through this journey, through applying, through preparing them to apply if they're not ready yet. And so there will be workshops, events, seminars, some of them, of course, delivered by BOM, as Luis said, and others by other partners and the universities themselves. So there will be a lot of activities around it. For some of the calls, we have partnered. In fact, they became a consortium partner, really, because they've just become an independent research organization now. This is Digital Catapult, which is a national organization that supports, of course, innovation and investment in technology and also in creative industries as part of its remit. So it's all about digital. And Digital Catapult will be providing incubation and support to all the business that apply to larger grants. We're still defining exactly what the role will be, but they will play a very important role. And Digital Catapult will put us in contact with a lot more initiatives around the country to support innovation and growth. We're also, sorry, you want to have a bit of time for that?
I was just going to say, if I know there's going to be lots of people that are really interested in knowing how they can access the funding or have conversations with you to join as an organisation. You're having a launch event, aren't you? When is that?
Yes, the launch, we'll have a public launch event on the 29th of April. So it is a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, and it will be here in Steam House. On the 29th of April, that will be the public launch of the project, and we'll be inviting all potential beneficiaries, all companies and the community here in the West Midlands that want to know about the project. And again, we will be more specific then. We'll know by then exactly the date of the first call and what it will look like, and the grants, the amounts. We'll have defined all that in the meantime. Specifically for freelancers, we want to work with freelancers. We do not have they're not eligible from the point of view of the funder to apply for grants. So the grants are for micro businesses. You have to have a business to apply for a grant. But if you're a freelancer, we can work with them. We can make them part of calls in the sense that we can commission work, or the beneficiaries can work with freelancers, and we've got a bit of money to support that kind of work. So if you wanted to involve an artist or a musician or something, we have ways of supporting that. But in terms of the mechanics of the grant, we cannot pay specifically freelancers from the grant.
Brilliant. So I think sign up for the launch day if you want to find out more. Is there any other opportunities that you want to mention at the table? If there's not, then that's fine. If there are, Louise has done the pitch. Sign up to Bombs newsletter. Follow them on socials. They are amazing. They do great work. Richard hasn't said it, but Birmingham Opera Company are great. The work that they do is brilliant. I've been in one of your performances many, many years ago. So, again, sign up to the newsletters, the socials.
Yeah, I mean, on our website you can sign up. And if, particularly people in Sandwell, you know, if you could drop us an email at create@birminghamopera.org.uk if any of this sounds of interest.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap. So we're going to give you a couple of minutes to ask questions, but I think it's really interesting to hear what everyone's doing, what you have always been doing, and actually what is yet to come. And I think it just reminds me of a quote from author and social theorist Peter Drucker, who said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So let's see what we create over the next 4 or 5 years. Okay, so any questions? Thank you, everyone. And any questions from the room? Yeah, okay. Let's go to Lara. Lara? No? Okay. Yeah, we want a question from Lara. Of course we do. And then gentleman at the back afterwards.
It's only because we're matching. That's why. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. My name's Lara Ratnaraja. I'm based in Birmingham. I don't really work here very often, but there's probably the same reasons Hayley didn't. And also, I've run a number of programmes in the region. I run them nationally. One, I ran the Digital Hub at Birmingham University, which brought a lot of these projects. We've met before, Lambert, so. And I probably worked with everyone on the panel at some point. And I also run a series of conferences, which we've done with Steamhouse for a number of years. And one of the frustrating things of running Hello Culture has been that we bring all these amazing people together, and I walk around with these artists and collaborations, and there's never been anything really. The universities have picked up those people, but there's never been an infrastructure. So I'm pleased to see that we're finally getting. I've just put this on Instagram. Actually, we're getting the cluster that we finally deserve in this region, because it's very frustrating to not have that here. I think the one thing I'd point out about, and I also made a comment about this on the Royal Anniversaries Trust, is the unique thing for this region, and particularly Birmingham, is the diversity. But I don't mean in the way that everyone talks about diversity in Birmingham, where we talk about communities and all the Asian people are the same and all that. I mean, Harmeet and I have had this conversation endlessly, and actually what we're not harnessing is the fact that we are a global marketplace in this region. There's a massive disparate amount of companies that I work through, actually through Warwick or through Coventry or through Birmingham, and there's no connectivity at all. But there's also a complete lack of understanding of what our global marketplace looks like. So we have, when we saw the data about the CreaTech companies, that's only who they counted, because you can only evaluate what you can count, and if you're still putting it through a bias of this is what was investable and not looking at diverse-led content and product, which is playing out in global marketplaces across the world. If you look at Netflix's output, over 20% of that is Asian-led, it's queer-led, it's black-led, it's Southeast Asian, and the rest of the cultural sector sits there wondering, how do we make ourselves more diverse? And I have to say, it's a conversation I really only hear in this region. I work across the UK, and there's much more harnessing of that kind of power. So I think one of the things I'd really like to see in this cluster is that de-biasing of what this looks like, and that it isn't just entry level, by the way. I'm mid to established, and I don't work here because there's no opportunities for people like me here. And we talked about this at an event at Brig at the Birmingham Race Impact Group yesterday about where are women of colour in this region, particularly in the culture and creative sector. So I think there's lots of opportunities about scalability and investment in infrastructure, but we need to take out the assumptions that are made around what diversity actually means in this region. And if we do that, we'll get it right.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks. Mine's more of a question. I think I'm an educator. I've been doing it for kind of 15 years, but I'm also an artist. And the one thing that comes up quite a lot is the precarity of working as a freelancer, and that you are between jobs all the time. And I think quite often with the bigger funding pots, that gets missed. And there's a lot of freelancers that I know that are really worried still at the moment, that they're in between the performance sector, the screen sectors, their jobs come and go. And I was just wondering how this is potentially an opportunity to build in a safety net for those freelancers, whether it's coming through academic routes or it's the way that the projects are structured, to give freelancers the opportunity to be sticky in this region, because that's why they all leave, from my experience, that most of my friends don't live here anymore because they've gone to London, they've gone to Glasgow, they've gone to New Zealand, they've gone to Vancouver. And the reason they've done that is because the work's too sporadic in this region, and that's why we lose everybody. And I just wondered whether that's something that's happening in this conversation. Thank you.
I mean, maybe I can just give you, of course, we don't have, because the funding is what it is, I mean, it's not, it cannot solve kind of big social problems at this kind of scale. But one thing that we are doing, we are supporting the creation of an ecosystem which we hope will then retain talent. So that's, you have to start somewhere. So there is a cluster in Warwickshire, Leamington Spa, which has worked well. It's got some problems now, but of course it has been a great example of a cluster which is based around a number of companies that grew together and reached critical mass. We don't have that in other parts of the West Midlands. We don't have that in Birmingham. The screen industry in Birmingham, for many years, we were expecting something to happen, and nothing happened. And now, slowly, something is happening. And Digbeth Block Studios, which was a partner in our failed bid for CoStar, we worked very much with them. It was great to see that there was some initiative there. But it's very slow moving. The BBC will come to Digbeth, yeah, but very slow moving. Everything is very slow moving. So what we can contribute with our work here is just to give a bit more glue to this connective tissue that then will enable, with all other initiatives at the policy level. The Combined Authority also is very much with us on this, and we have a lot of hopes. I don't know if Hayley is still here. I hope she's not, so I can say we're hoping for the Combined Authority to actually put some money behind this in terms of supporting exactly this kind of profiles, and how people with that kind of profile can stay in the region rather than going elsewhere. Because it's a combined effort. We put our bit in it, and then we expect others to also contribute, because once you've got a platform, it's a lot easier to find and add investment and add other resources. So in that sense, I hope that in 5 years, you want to know what's the after party thing. In 5 years' time, when we finish this, what we will consider success. For me, success will be if we have retained talent, if we've managed to build a kind of ecosystem that takes for granted that if you want to work in the creative industries, you stay in Birmingham, you stay in the West Midlands, because that's where work is. So that would be my proof.
And also, you can join the Spaces Associate Network. We absolutely value the freelancer economy. We understand all of those things about actually, it's sporadic, it's, sometimes unreliable, you're constantly looking for your next contract or commission. I've been a part of that economy too. So, just as Lamberto said, it's about making sure that all of those dots are connecting to one another so that we do retain you. We don't want to lose you. So keep telling them, and also join the Freelancers Associate Network, and also see what else is available in terms of the organisations that are always supporting and looking for artists and creatives in different ways.
We've got one more question online, which was, is there like a URL about how people can actually find out about the opportunities, somewhere where we can actually direct people to, please? That would be...
Started the project. We've bought the domain, so CreaTechFrontiers.com is a domain. We're developing a website. It will be ready at some point. For the moment, it's just an empty, it's just a holding page. But as soon as we'll probably put a subscribe button or something on it in the next week or so that people can, if they're interested in receiving news on our activities, will be able to, before we finish the whole website. So yeah, there will be a website. And the URL is CreaTechFrontiers.com.
CreaTechFrontiers.com. Save that, keep checking it daily, keep pestering, send the emails. We want to know how we get an invite to the launch.
Page, please.
It's coming. But also, I think probably Steamhouse will probably promote anything that's happening too, won't it? Because it's here. So I'm guessing there'll be, if you're part of the Steamhouse community or you're connected to their newsletter, you'll also find out through them as well.
All the Steamhouse channels will be put to the service of CreaTech Frontiers.
In the audience?
I don't know if it's a question, but something more to share and think about. But I went to something last year where it was looking at how to better underpin creativity and keep it in an area. And the concept was around how large institutions can think about how they procure things a lot more mindfully of the local environment and the creatives that are within it. So it's just to put that to you, to think about the procurement activities you'll need to do and how you can support and underpin the local ecosystem, if you like, of creatives and businesses in that commissioning. So something to consider in the startup.
I mean, I think one of the things we spoke about earlier is that the wealth and investment stays in the region, because that is often a challenge with large infrastructure projects or large flagship projects. I think the general employment thing, which we've brought up a few times now, that's a massive challenge for the West Midlands. And we have to all be working together to look at ways in which we can sew all this stuff up across sectors, that there is enough stickiness of employment, and really look at how we're, I mean, for us, for example, we're looking at it nationally, how many singers are based in the West Midlands? And how do we make more opportunity for singers in the West Midlands? And what other work would they do the rest of the year if they were freelance? How can we programme our projects that maximises their employment opportunity? Because they're all, a lot of them are having to go to live in Europe. So they're not even moving just to London, they're going to Europe because there isn't enough work in the UK. So I think this is a big thing that we're working on it. I know Culture Central are doing quite a lot of work on it in terms of research of a growth strategy. I know the Combined Authority are working on a growth strategy. We really need to go back to the thing I said at the beginning, it's almost like a regeneration strategy to tackle exactly the problems that you're talking about.
Just to add to that, actually, thinking regionally is written into the Arts Council funding applications now for us. So everything that we do has to be regional first, and actually, if it's not, you have to justify why. So with some of the work we've done, we work with companies in Warwickshire and in Kings Heath and in Birmingham, and actually this field offers us a huge opportunity to partnership locally, which is why we're targeting it and why we sort of really, another reason why we really value it. So with being committed to regional and keeping it here is really key. You're right. It's a great point.
I was going to mention what Tom just mentioned, is collaboration with a local company, with the Holosphere, it's an immersive studio for your work. And interestingly, Royal Shakespeare Company is one of our core partners. They've never worked with a company in the West Midlands, and they want to. So they've always worked with companies in London, but now they're on the project. They will work with companies in the West Midlands, which is already a big win, even before we start. But we've got this very much at heart, this idea of working locally and supporting the local economy, definitely.
On that, what you said about freelancers is actually, if this system is working internally as a region, the freelancers benefit from that as well. So I think it's a process, isn't it? So.
Brilliant. Okay, one more question and then we're going to take a break.
So just following on from the regional thinking, one of the things that I find working within the arts and culture sector in the region is that we can be quite inward looking. And I know obviously we want to look at regional growth, but who are your international partners? Who are we modelling from? Because it's so good talking about there's a clear ambition and a clear vision, but who are we learning from? Who are the international partners? So that we can have a bit more of a standard, what's the benchmark?
Great point. So one of the projects we did was in partnership with Canon Cameras. So actually, we work with Canon UK, but then they're talking. The project that we did with Swan Lake, we used four VR 180 lenses at the same time, filming simultaneously. utter nightmare. Don't ever do it. But Canon wrote a white paper about that, and it has now gone globally, internally, to say this is a standard of working in that environment. So, you know, actually, we should be thinking globally, but there's the skills in the region to do that as well, and to be industry leaders. But yeah, I think in terms of globally, that's sort of where we've gone with it. But I think you have to think it's globally accessible content, and for me, thinking globally is about the distribution of your work and how you share it, and thinking globally in that way. But like I said, we are committed to working regionally as well, and it will have, by its very nature, the way that you share it and the way that you distribute it and talk about it is global. Does that answer your question? Sorry. Yeah, that went off on a tangent.
I will add just a little bit to what Tom said. Very much it's in my thoughts all the time how we have an international dimension to this. When we wrote the application, we didn't have a lot of time, so we only put together 3 international partners. So one is the Central Conservatory in Beijing in China, another one is Ars Electronica in Linz in Austria, and then South by Southwest, who's also a partner in the project, as I mentioned. So these are the only 3 international partners we've got. Our organizations have a lot of international partners we work with all the time at the Conservatoire, at Warwick, and all the others. So we will want to expand on that. We will want, throughout the life of the project, to get as much as possible exposure of what we do in international showcases, but also collaborate with other institutions or organizations in Europe and the rest of the world. We've got a bit of that, not a lot, I admit, but we really want to expand on that.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, energy, and attention to our panel. Thank you for everyone listening. If you have any questions in the room, then you can come and chat to the speakers that are here. If you have any questions online, then send them over. Keep pestering, I think, is the main thing as well. You know, what I've learned, you know, starting out as a freelancer and then, making my own experiences and then working with the space with a huge team of people is actually, if you want to get anything done, you have to keep beating the door down, because it's the only way you get heard. And then eventually you get to find the right people to make the things that you really are passionate about and that you really care about. And that's how we move forward. Thank you everyone so much. And that's a wrap.